They mocked the seal who bought a $1 farm, until his dog uncovered a sealed vault that was never meant to see daylight again. In a forgotten corner of Montana, Logan Mercer and his K9, Hunter, stepped onto land everyone else had abandoned. But when the floorboards began to vibrate beneath the barn, the truth buried since the Cold War clawed its way back into the light, and nothing in Ridgebend would ever be the same. The road into Ridgebend curled like a cracked ribbon through the Bitterroot Mountains, cutting between pine-shadowed cliffs and long, empty meadows. Logan Mercer eased his old pickup along the final bend, its engine coughing in protest as if it knew the weight of the life he carried. The town appeared quietly below, just a spread of weathered rooftops, a diner with a flickering sign, and a lone water tower that had seen better decades. It wasn't much, but it was the only place in the country that would hand a man a farm for $1. Hunter sat upright in the passenger seat, ears perked and eyes sharp. The Belgian Malinois watched every passing shape with a soldier's attention, as though expecting danger to crawl out of the tree line at any moment. Logan reached over and brushed his fingers through the dog's fur. The touch steadied him, just enough to breathe again. When they pulled into the gas station on Main Street, the first stares came. A pair of old-timers leaned against the ice machine, whispering behind cracked knuckles. A teenage boy loading firewood into a truck paused, squinting at Logan's limp. Even the cashier behind the fogged window gave him a sympathetic look, one he'd grown to hate over the years. "Poor guy," the boy murmured softly, not realizing Logan could hear every word. "That's the one who bought Denton's place for $1. Must be desperate." Logan lowered his head, pretending not to notice. Desperate wasn't wrong. The VA checks barely covered groceries. His neck still burned where shrapnel had grazed him years back, and nightmares clung to him like smoke. He wasn't looking for a miracle, just a place to breathe where no one would ask why he still woke up screaming some nights. He drove farther up the mountain road until the pavement gave way to gravel, then dirt, then something that didn't deserve to be called a road at all. Hunter braced himself, standing steady as the truck rattled through potholes deep enough to swallow a tire. And then finally, there it was. The $1 farm. The mailbox leaned like it was ashamed to admit where it belonged. The farmhouse sagged under its own roof. The barn looked one good windstorm away from collapsing. The fence had long surrendered to rust and weeds. Yet something in the quiet land held him still. "This is it, bud," Logan whispered. Hunter hopped out first, nose lifted to the air. The dog's body stiffened. His ears locked forward, tail rigid. The fur along his spine rose like a warning. "What is it?" Logan scanned the tree line, instincts firing with the same edge that had kept him alive overseas. But the yard was empty except for the whisper of pine needles. Maybe Hunter just smelled wildlife. Maybe Logan was imagining the weight in the air. Maybe... Hunter growled low in his throat. Logan froze. That sound wasn't for deer. Still, he forced himself to walk toward the farmhouse porch, each step sending a quiet throb through the old injury in his leg. Inside, dust hung in the air like forgotten time. The floor creaked beneath every footfall. It was the kind of silence that didn't feel peaceful, more like a place that had stopped breathing years ago. By late afternoon, he'd cleared only one small corner of the living room. Exhaustion pressed on him harder than the altitude. Hunter stayed restless, circling the rooms, sniffing at corners, pacing near windows that looked out toward the fading tree line. At dusk, they made their first pass through the barn. The wooden boards groaned under Logan's weight, and dust puffed up around his boots. A single beam of dying sunlight slipped through a broken slat, cutting across the dirt floor. Everything smelled of old hay and rust. Hunter stiffened again. The dog moved slowly toward the far left corner of the barn, toward a dark patch of floor where the wood looked different, older, sunken almost. Hunter pressed his nose to it, sniffed once, then began scratching. At first, Logan thought it was nothing, just a curious dog reacting to unfamiliar smells. But Hunter wasn't curious. He was on alert, focused, intense, scratching with purpose. "Hey," Logan called gently. "What are you doing, buddy?" Hunter ignored him and kept clawing until splinters began to fly. Logan knelt, touched the boards. They were vibrating, just faintly, like something deep underneath was humming or shifting or alive. The barn fell silent. The mountains outside held their breath. And for the first time that day, Logan felt something colder than the January air slide through his spine. This wasn't just a beaten-down farm. Something was under his feet. Something Hunter already knew was there. Something no one in Ridgebend had warned him about. He stood slowly, heart thudding, eyes locked on the trembling floorboards. "Hunter, what the hell did we just walk into?" The dog's answer was a low, steady growl, one that didn't stop. The light outside had already thinned into a cold blue as Logan crouched beside Hunter. His breath fogged the dusty air. The wooden board beneath his palm trembled just enough for him to feel it through the calluses of his skin. Not a wind vibration, not an animal. Something deeper. Something man-made. Hunter's hackles stood like bristles. He pressed his shoulder against Logan's knee, nudging him back toward the door. Logan swallowed hard, scanning the dark corners of the barn. Every shadow looked wrong. Every creak sounded like footsteps sneaking between the rafters. He forced himself to stand, pulling Hunter gently by the collar. "That's enough for tonight, buddy," he whispered. "Let's regroup." The moment they stepped outside, the cold slapped his lungs. The mountains had gone quiet, the kind of silence that belonged to winter storms and old cemeteries. The air felt heavy, as if the land itself held secrets under its frost-bitten soil. Back in the farmhouse, Logan locked each door, checking twice. The floor groaned under his weight. Hunter paced the living room, nails clicking softly on the old boards. Logan tried to unpack his duffel, but his hands wouldn't stop shaking. The vibration under the barn floor kept replaying in his mind, syncing with the metallic clank that had triggered something inside his memory. A flash. Sand. Smoke. A collapsing corridor. Then yelling. Someone dragging him out of the rubble. Hunter's jaws clenched around his sleeve, pulling him toward daylight. He blinked hard, grounding himself. "You're safe," he muttered under his breath. "You're here. This is Montana, not a combat zone." But his heart still raced. He slept in his boots, rifle within reach, or tried to sleep. Every time he drifted off, Hunter growled toward the window. By dawn, Logan's eyes burned from exhaustion. He stepped outside into bitter morning air. Frost glimmered on the porch railing like cracked glass. Hunter stayed glued to his side as they made their way back to the barn. The rising sun cast a thin gold line along the roof's edge. The moment Logan tugged the barn door open, Hunter darted forward and returned to the same spot, digging in short, frantic bursts. Logan knelt again, brushing away the loose dirt. This time he noticed something, an edge of metal beneath a warped plank. "What are you showing me?" Logan whispered. He worked the plank loose, splintering it with the butt of his knife. Beneath, a slab of steel stared back at him. A circular military latch sat flush against the metal, half covered in decades of grime. Logan's breath caught. The emblem above it, a faded eagle clutching 3 arrows, was unmistakable. U.S. military property. Hunter pawed at it again, whining softly. "Okay," Logan muttered. "All right, now we're getting somewhere." He touched the latch and instantly regretted it. The cold shot through his fingertips like electricity, snapping another memory loose. An explosion in Kandahar, the sharp clang of metal buckling above him, dust swallowing his lungs. He stumbled back, hand shaking uncontrollably. Hunter pressed against him, grounding him. Logan stayed like that for a moment, breathing with the dog's steady rhythm. When he stood again, he forced himself to focus. Whatever this hatch was, someone had sealed it for a reason. He stepped outside to clear his head, only to find an elderly woman standing at the fence line, bundled in a wool coat and scarf. She raised a hand in a timid wave. "You must be the new owner," she called gently. "I'm Nora Collins. I live down the road." Logan wiped his palms on his jeans, trying to hide how shaken he felt. "Logan Mercer. Sorry, I didn't hear you come up." Nora's kind eyes lingered on Hunter. "That's a good dog you've got there. Smart, protective." She paused, lowering her voice. "You'll need him up here." A knot tightened in Logan's stomach. "Why's that?" Nora stepped closer, glancing toward the barn. "Because the last man who lived here, Harold Denton, vanished 3 years ago. Sheriff said he must have wandered into the woods and got lost. But folks around here don't believe that." Logan felt the cold seep deeper into his bones. "Why not?" Nora hesitated. "Before he disappeared, he told me he found something on this land. Something dangerous. Something he didn't trust the wrong people to know about." Hunter growled again, low, rumbling, steady. Nora's gaze hardened. "People laughed when you bought this place, called it cursed. But Harold once told me, whoever ends up with this farm next won't be here by accident." Logan felt the weight of her stare. "What does that mean?" "It means," she whispered, "some land doesn't pick its owners lightly." Hunter moved closer to Logan, standing between him and the barn as if shielding him from something unseen. And for the first time since arriving, Logan realized the truth. This wasn't just a rough farm, it was a warning. And whatever haunted Harold Denton before he vanished was waking up again. Logan stood in the barn doorway long after Nora Collins disappeared down the frost-covered trail. Her words echoed through him, heavy as the winter sky pressing against the mountains. Harold Denton. Missing. Danger. Wrong people. The kind of sentence that could unravel a man's life if he didn't tread carefully. Hunter nudged his leg, urging him back toward the corner where the metal hatch was buried beneath uneven planks. Logan exhaled slowly, forcing himself to act instead of fear. He grabbed his crowbar from the truck and returned to the barn, each step crunching through old hay and loose gravel. Hunter stayed close, head low, eyes sharp. With a grunt, Logan pried up another board. Dust exploded upward, stinging his eyes. Beneath it lay a rectangular wooden box the color of burnt cedar, its brass hinges tarnished black with age. It hadn't been touched in decades. Hunter sniffed it once, then backed away, ears twisting back as if the box carried a scent he didn't trust. Logan placed the crate on an overturned feed bucket and opened it gently. The hinges groaned like a dying breath. Inside lay a stack of folded papers, a metal keycard with a faded insignia, and rolls of brittle drafting parchment secured with old twine. He unfolded the first map and nearly forgot to breathe. A detailed layout of the farm, his farm, drawn with military precision. Black ink lines showed underground structures branching like veins beneath the barn. A small sketch in the corner read, "Project Iron Vault, 1953. Hunter whined softly, pacing again. He circled a beam of sunlight that had cut through a crack in the roof, as if guarding Logan while he studied the papers. The second map was worse. In the margins were handwritten notes in jittery strokes. Pressure seems unstable. Unauthorized drilling reported. Do not disclose until safe. And a final chilling line. They know I found it. Logan's jaw tightened. He had seen that handwriting before. Men trying to leave messages before fate caught up with them. He reached deeper into the box and found a metal keycard etched with a clearance code. The center bore an emblem, a shield, an eagle, 3 stars. Cold War era, high level, something that should have been handed back to the government, not buried under a barn in Montana. Hunter's bark exploded across the barn, sharp and anxious. Logan spun around. The dog was positioned at the open door, staring into the tree line where the shadows were thicker than they should have been. Logan approached slowly, following Hunter's line of sight. His breath fogged the air as he narrowed his eyes. Someone was out there. He couldn't see them, but he felt them. That faint shift in the wind, that weight in the silence, that instinct he'd trusted all his years in uniform. He tightened his grip on Hunter's collar. "Inside," Logan whispered. "Careful now." Hunter obeyed, backing into the barn while keeping his gaze fixed outside. Logan shut the barn door quietly and slid the latch into place. The thin metal wouldn't stop anyone determined, but it made him feel less exposed. He carried the wooden box back to the farmhouse, every step aware of the invisible eyes in the forest. Once inside, he spread the maps across the kitchen table. The overhead light flickered, casting long shadows across the faded lines. Hunter sat beside him, chest rising and falling, with slow, guarded breaths. Logan traced one tunnel with his finger. A narrow passage beneath the barn, a secondary chamber, then a larger dome-shaped vault deeper underground. Whatever was under this land wasn't small. It wasn't casual. It was designed, fortified, and hidden with purpose. He rubbed his temples. "What were you doing, Denton?" A knock snapped his attention to the front door. Not loud, just a single polite tap. Logan froze. Hunter stood instantly, fur bristling, ready to tear through the wood if needed. Another knock. Controlled. Confident. Logan grabbed his pistol from the table drawer, moving silently toward the door. He kept the barrel low but ready as he opened it just enough to see a slim figure standing on the porch. A young grocery clerk, the same one from town earlier. His baseball cap was pushed back nervously. Mr. Mercer?" the boy stammered. "You dropped this when you were in town." He held out a folded receipt. Logan exhaled, embarrassed by how tightly he'd gripped the pistol. He took the receipt, forcing a nod. "Thanks." The boy hesitated. His eyes flicked toward the mountains behind Logan. "Look, folks talk, you know? Denton was a good man. Whatever he thought he found up here, it scared him. Real bad." Logan's pulse ticked faster. "What did he say?" The boy lowered his voice. That the ground wasn't just shaking, it was humming, like something alive down there. Hunter let out a deep guttural growl. The boy stepped back. "Just be careful, sir." As he hurried down the path, Logan closed the door and leaned against it. He slid the deadbolt into place. Then he turned back to the kitchen table, where the old maps waited like a puzzle no one had wanted to touch. Hunter pressed his head against Logan's leg, steady and loyal. Logan stared at the ink lines again, those tunnels, those secret chambers, and felt the dread settle deeper in his chest. Someone had hidden a secret under this land. Someone else had vanished trying to expose it. And now he and Hunter were standing exactly where Harold Denton had stood before disappearing from Ridgebend forever. The next morning broke dull and gray, the kind of light that felt more like a warning than a sunrise. Logan barely slept. Every creak in the farmhouse, every shift of the wind against the siding, sent Hunter lifting his head with a rumble deep in his chest. Logan stepped onto the porch with a mug of black coffee, staring across the frost-hardened fields. The barn loomed dark and silent. Yesterday's discoveries still clung to him like smoke. Maps, keycards, muted threats scribbled in frantic handwriting. and that heavy sense he and Hunter weren't alone up here. Hunter stiffened beside him. His ears rose sharply, pointing down the long gravel driveway twisting between the pines. A sleek black SUV appeared through the morning mist. Logan didn't move. Neither did Hunter. They stood like stone while the vehicle rolled to a stop in front of the porch. Too clean, too polished, too out of place for this broken $1 farm. The driver's door opened, and a man stepped out wearing a charcoal suit worth more than Logan's entire truck. He moved with the self-confidence of someone who'd never heard the word no. "Mr. Mercer?" he asked, adjusting cufflinks that shimmered like tiny blades in the light. Logan didn't answer. The man smiled, thin and insincere. "My name is Carter Voss. I represent North Point Strategic Minerals. May I have a moment of your time?" Hunter stepped forward, placing himself between Logan and the stranger. The growl that came from him this time was colder, more controlled. A warning. Voss glanced at the dog and chuckled. "Beautiful animal. Trained, no doubt." Logan finally replied, voice flat. "State your business." "Well," Voss said, clasping his hands together, "I heard you acquired this property recently. Congratulations, by the way. Quite a deal." His smile sharpened. $1. Remarkable. Logan didn't blink. "Your point?" "The land has potential," Voss continued, strolling casually along the porch steps like he owned them. "Historical value, geological value, perhaps strategic value. North Point is prepared to make you an offer significantly higher than the county assessed." "Not selling." Voss's smile stayed, but something behind his eyes flickered. "Mr. Mercer, I strongly suggest you reconsider. This area has hazards you're not prepared to handle. Structural instability, unmapped terrain, old problems." Logan's jaw clenched. "You don't know what I'm prepared for." "Oh, but I do," Voss replied lightly. "Former Navy SEAL, Afghanistan, 2 tours, injuries, commendations, a service dog." His gaze shifted toward Hunter. "North Point does its research." Hunter growled louder, and this time he stepped down a stair, head low, muscles tight. Voss kept smiling, but his posture adjusted, betraying a sliver of tension. "Relax, big guy," he muttered. "You should leave," Logan said. Voss tipped his head. "And what if I choose not to?" Hunter launched forward, fast enough that Voss stumbled back, boots kicking up gravel. Logan grabbed Hunter's harness before he struck, holding him in place with both hands. Voss's polished composure cracked. He straightened his jacket, face tight. "This is me being friendly, Mr. Mercer. Consider this your only warning. Accidents happen in isolated places. People get hurt. Property gets damaged. We'd hate for any misfortune to fall on a veteran simply trying to build his life." Logan's voice dropped low. "Get off my land." Voss stared at him long enough to make the silence feel sharp. Then he turned, dusted off his sleeves, and walked back to his SUV. The door slammed hard, harder than necessary, and the vehicle peeled down the driveway, gravel spraying. Hunter barked until the SUV disappeared around the bend. Logan exhaled, but it didn't relieve the pressure in his chest. He looked toward the barn. Something felt wrong. He walked over with Hunter at his side. The gravel near the structure was freshly disturbed, not like when he'd walked it yesterday. More like someone else had been circling the barn. Waiting. He stopped at the truck and froze. Deep scratches had been gouged down the passenger side door, 4 long, deliberate lines cut into the metal. Not from an animal. Too straight. Too intentional. Hunter sniffed the marks, ears pinned back, growling low. Logan stepped back, pulse rising. His gaze drifted toward the tree line again, where the shadows seemed thicker than the cold morning should allow. Someone had been here. Someone who didn't care if he knew it. He went inside the farmhouse and locked the door behind him. The maps still lay across the kitchen table, the keycard gleaming in the dim light. Hunter rested beside him, but kept facing the window, unwilling to drop his guard. Logan brushed a hand over the parchment, tracing the tunnels beneath the barn. If Carter Voss wanted this land badly enough to threaten him, then whatever was buried down there wasn't just valuable. It was dangerous. They were moving from suspicion to open hostility, and Logan knew enough about men like Voss to understand something crystal clear. If North Point couldn't buy the land, they'd take it. By force. Hunter lifted his head suddenly, a sharp grunt vibrating through his chest. Logan followed the dog's gaze. A shadow moved near the barn, silent, swift, then vanished behind the corner. The threat wasn't coming. It was already here. Logan stood motionless beside the kitchen window, watching the barn through a thin veil of late-afternoon fog. Hunter pressed against his leg, ears sharp, muscles tight, eyes locked on the same corner where the shadow had slipped out of sight. Every instinct Logan had honed in 2 decades of combat whispered the same thing. Move. Now. He didn't grab a weapon. He didn't need one yet. What he needed was clarity, confirmation. Logan stepped outside quietly, boots sinking into cold soil. Hunter stayed glued to his side, a living radar scanning every shift in the wind. They circled the barn slow, tactical, controlled. Nothing. No footprints in the soft dirt. No broken twigs. No scent trail Hunter could follow. Just his lingering unease, rumbling in the dog's throat like a low engine. Logan knelt beside him. Easy. We'll find it. Hunter didn't calm. Instead, he pulled toward the foundation, back to the same worn spot where he'd scratched for days. His nails scraped hard against the rotted boards, and when Logan placed his palm on the floor, it vibrated. Not shaking, not movement. A hum. Faint. Mechanical. His pulse jumped. He grabbed his crowbar and pried up the plank. Beneath it lay the old metal latch he'd uncovered before, rusted shut, painted over by decades, stamped with U.S. Ord 54. But tonight, the metal felt warmer, alive. Someone had been down there recently, maybe minutes ago. Logan closed his eyes, inhaling the cold air. All right, we're doing this. He slid the crowbar under the latch, bone and metal grinding with a screech that echoed through the barn like something exhaled from the earth. Hunter backed up a step, hackles high. The seal broke. Cold air rushed out, older than both of them, smelling of iron and dust and time. Logan flicked on his flashlight. A narrow shaft dropped straight down, lined with riveted steel. A tunnel. Not makeshift, not abandoned. Engineered. Hunter, stay close. Logan took a breath, anchored his boots on the ladder rungs and descended into the dark. The air grew colder with each step. When he reached the bottom, the beam from his flashlight caught metallic walls, reinforced supports, and thick pipes running into the earth. Hunter slid down beside him with practiced ease. The tunnel stretched forward, swallowing the light. They moved together, slow, deliberate. Old power conduits ran along the walls. The hum he'd felt above grew louder, a low mechanical throb buried deep in the structure. 50 feet in, the tunnel opened into a small antechamber. On one side, a heavy vault door stood sealed shut, round and imposing, with a cracked red warning light above it. Project Iron Vault Restricted, 1954. Cold War military, Logan whispered. Denton wasn't just nosing around. He found something federal. Hunter's ears snapped toward the tunnel entrance behind them. Footsteps, not imagined, Not echo. Real. Gravel shifted overhead. A board creaked. Someone was inside the barn again, walking slowly, deliberately, as though mapping the structure from above. Logan clicked off the flashlight, plunging them into darkness. Hunter pressed his warm body against Logan's leg, silent but coiled like a spring. Then a second sound drifted from above. Metal sliding. A latch. Someone was closing the hatch. Logan froze. The boards overhead groaned, followed by a heavy thud, and darkness settled deeper, heavier, suffocating. The intruder had sealed the opening. Logan steadied his breathing, low and controlled. "They knew," he whispered. "They knew we were going down here." Hunter's steady growl vibrated against his shin, but Logan placed a reassuring hand on the dog's harness. "All right, we're not dying in a tunnel." He moved to the vault door, running his hands across the cold steel. A manual wheel lock, old but intact. If someone had wanted this to stay closed forever, they would have welded it shut. Instead, it felt waiting. Logan braced his boots, gripped the wheel, and pushed. Nothing. He tried again, muscles straining, breath sharp. Rust cracked, dust fell, metal shifted with a groaning protest that echoed down the tunnel like a living thing waking up. The wheel turned. The vault door hissed inward. Cold air rolled out, sharper this time, carrying a sterile bite like a long-abandoned laboratory. Logan lifted his light and swept the beam across the chamber. Rows of metal crates. A collapsed desk. Rotting paper binders stamped. U.S. Ordnance. Strategic Materials Unauthorized Access. Prohibited. A single workstation sat in the corner, the old lamp knocked over. The faint hum came from vents overhead, cycling air through a system decades old, but somehow still running. Hunter padded forward cautiously, nose working. Logan stepped deeper into the chamber, shining his light across dust-covered equipment. Something bigger lay ahead, a shape under a tarp. Before he uncovered it, he froze. A new sound cut through the air. Boots, fast, above them, running away from the barn. Logan whispered, "Hunter, someone was down here, and they didn't want us to know." Hunter's answer was a single bark, sharp, urgent. Logan felt the tremor in his gut, the shift in the air, the truth settling like a hard stone. They weren't the only ones exploring the iron vault. Someone had gotten here first, and whatever had been hidden for 70 years was waking up again. Logan moved deeper into the chamber, the flashlight trembling slightly in his grip despite his best effort to stay composed. The cold down here was different. Sterile, metallic, the kind that seeped through clothing and settled in the bones. Hunter walked ahead, paws silent on the steel flooring, nose twitching with sharp purpose. A tarp lay draped across a large object near the center of the room. Logan gripped the corner and pulled. Dust billowed up like a ghost rising from sleep. Underneath sat a massive steel crate marked with faded stencils, strategic materials, rare earth property of U.S. government. 1954. His jaw tightened, not at the crate itself, but at the implications. Rare earth minerals weren't just valuable. They were essential for military systems, energy, high-tech manufacturing. If a private corporation like North Point knew they were here, no wonder Carter Voss wanted his land. Hunter's nose pulled him toward a smaller door on the left side of the chamber. Logan followed, pushing it open with the edge of his boot. Inside lay a cramped office, metal cabinets, fallen shelves, and a scattered waterfall of papers covering the floor. The air smelled older here, stale with the rot of ancient documents. Logan knelt, gathering the closest stack. Denton, Herald. Incident notes, unauthorized surveying activity, North Point, strategic minerals, confidential inquiry. The last file made him pause. North Point. Here. Before Denton vanished. Hunter whined softly, urging him to continue. Logan opened a green binder labeled 1954, field log. The handwriting inside was tight, hurried, and edged with panic. Project Iron Vault unstable. Structural integrity compromised after unauthorized drilling from North Point subcontractors. Denton discovered the breach, attempted to report, received threats. If something happens to me, the truth is down here. A chill ran through Logan, not just from the cold, but from a familiar weight settling on his chest. That feeling when someone wrote their final words knowing they might not survive to speak them. Another page was torn halfway, but he could still make out the sentence. They said they would bury me where no one would ever find me. Logan shut his eyes for a moment. Men's last messages had haunted him his entire career. The fear in those lines wasn't just bureaucratic frustration. It was a man writing while looking over his own shoulder. He stacked the files and rose slowly. This wasn't an accident, he murmured. Denton didn't disappear. He was silenced. Hunter nudged a fallen folder with his nose. Logan opened it carefully. Photos. Grainy black and white images of the vault when it was still operational. Rows of crates, teams of uniformed men, drilling equipment. But the last photo froze him. A half-excavated cavern, walls fractured, giant cracks spidering through rock. Red arrows pointed to destabilized beams. Written across the bottom, "Do not enter. Collapse imminent if disturbed." Logan swallowed hard. They kept digging anyway, he whispered. Hunter stiffened suddenly. A soft vibration tremored through the floor, not from above but from somewhere deeper in the vault. The overhead vents rattled, releasing a burst of cold air that carried something sharp, almost chemical. Logan backed toward the main chamber with Hunter at his side. The hum that had been faint earlier was louder now, rhythmic, mechanical, alive. He lifted the flashlight and scanned the walls until the beam landed on a large metal vent that hadn't been active moments ago. The old motor churned, grinding through decades of dust. Something triggered the ventilation system, Logan whispered. Someone turned it on. Hunter growled and looked toward the tunnel. Footsteps again. Closer this time. Logan snapped off the flashlight. Darkness swallowed them both. He grabbed Hunter gently by the harness, guiding him behind the steel crate. They crouched in silence. Logan's hand wrapped around Hunter's collar, feeling the dog's controlled tremble of readiness. Shadows moved at the end of the tunnel. A muted beam of light danced across the walls. Someone else had a flashlight. Logan held his breath. A silhouette passed through the chamber doorway, a man in dark clothing, his face hidden beneath the brim of a hood. He scanned the crates with slow precision, as if searching for something specific. The intruder's beam stopped on the vault files on the floor, Logan's flashlight still glowing faintly beneath them. He knelt to examine the papers, unaware that Logan and Hunter were only a few feet away. Logan's heart hammered, but he stayed silent. The man gathered a handful of documents, stuffed them into a pack, and pulled out a small device. He placed it on the floor. Flat, square, metallic. A tracker, a beacon, or something far worse. The man whispered into a radio. The words were muffled, but Logan caught enough. Found evidence. Notify Voss. Mercer's down here. Finish it. Hunter growled, a low, involuntary sound. The intruder froze. His head turned sharply toward the crates. Logan tensed. Hunter tensed. A beat of silence stretched thin as wire. Then, the man bolted toward the tunnel, boots hammering steel. Logan sprang from hiding. "Hunter, no!" The dog launched but skidded on debris, missing the closing distance by inches. The intruder sprinted down the tunnel and vanished into the darkness. Logan ran to the device the man left behind. A blinking red light pulsed on its surface. Not a tracker. A detonator. His stomach dropped. He scooped it up and killed the signal with a sharp twist of the casing. The blinking light dimmed, then died. Hunter whined beside him, sensing the spike of danger. Logan exhaled shakily. Denton was right. They were willing to kill to bury this. He looked back toward the vault, cold, ominous, patient. "For you to disappear," he whispered. "They must have thought you were close to exposing them." Hunter pressed against his leg. "And now they think I am." Logan took the files, slung his pack over his shoulder, and headed toward the tunnel entrance. They needed daylight. They needed air. And they needed to prepare, because North Point wasn't done. They had only just begun. Logan moved fast through the tunnel, Hunter at his heels, the cold metal walls reflecting their footsteps in haunting echoes. When they reached the ladder, Logan stopped. The hatch above was closed tight, far tighter than he'd left it. Someone had sealed it from the outside. He pressed his shoulder against it. It didn't budge. He shoved harder. The old boards groaned, but whatever was on top, rocks, sandbags, or someone standing guard, kept it locked down. Logan clenched his jaw, stepped back, and lifted his eyes to the ceiling. "All right," he whispered. "Not that way." Hunter stood beside him, tense but ready. Logan knelt, placing a steady hand on the dog's neck. "We'll use the emergency shaft," he said softly. "Stay close." They retraced their steps deeper into the tunnel, toward a rusted metal grate he had noticed earlier. A maintenance exit barely large enough for a man to crawl through. With enough force, it would open. Logan wedged the crowbar beneath the frame and leaned his full weight into it. Rust cracked, metal screamed, dust rained down like old snow. Finally, the grate tore free. Fresh, cold air flooded the corridor. "Up," Logan whispered. Hunter climbed first, agile and silent, his paws pressing into the soft dirt above. Logan followed, pulling himself into the night. The opening brought them out behind a cluster of pines 200 feet from the barn. The sky stretched black and moonless, heavy clouds smothering any natural light. The farmhouse glowed faintly in the distance, a single lamp flickering behind a curtain. But something was off. The power line leading to the farmhouse sagged unnaturally, swaying slightly in the wind. Cut. Hunter's growl vibrated through the soil beneath them. Logan lowered himself, listening. A crunch. Then another. The unmistakable rhythm of boots, several pairs moving through the yard. He whispered, "They're here." Hunter's posture dropped, tail stiff, muscles coiled like a loaded spring. A beam of light swept across the farmhouse window. Another sliced across the barn door. Voices murmured, low, coordinated. Mercenaries, professionals, North Point's cleaning crew. Logan grabbed Hunter's harness, guiding him into the deeper tree cover. They moved with the precision of men who had survived together in darker nights than this. But then, a snap of branches behind them. Close. Logan turned sharply, pistol raised. A shadow lunged out of the darkness. Hunter exploded forward before Logan could fire, teeth flashing in a violent arc of instinct. The intruder crashed to the ground, Hunter dragging him down by the forearm. Steel glinted, a knife. "Hunter!" Logan yelled. But the dog had already committed, a seamless blend of training and pure loyalty. The man slashed wildly. Hunter yelped, sharp, agonized. The sound cut through Logan's chest like a blade. Rage surged. He rushed the attacker, grabbed the wrist holding the knife, twisted hard, and slammed the man to the dirt. The blade clattered free. Hunter limped back, blood staining his flank. Logan's breath shattered. "No. No, buddy. Stay with me." The mercenary rolled, gasping, reaching for something under his jacket. Logan kicked the weapon away and delivered a final, decisive strike that left the man unmoving. He knelt beside Hunter, hands shaking as he touched the wound. Warm blood soaked his fingers. The cut was deep, too deep for field treatment alone. Hunter nuzzled Logan's forearm, refusing to show weakness. His eyes stayed focused, still alert, still guarding even while wounded. "Don't you dare quit on me," Logan whispered, voice cracking. "Not tonight." He carried the dog in his arms. No hesitation, no thought for the soldiers stalking the property. He headed toward the tree line, toward the only safe path away from the farm. Behind him, the mercenaries spread out across the yard. Flashlights sliced the night. One voice called out, "Mercer, we know you're out here." Another yelled, "Bring us the files, and maybe the dog lives." Logan didn't slow. He secured Hunter against his chest and kept running, branches whipping his face, roots snagging his boots, cold wind tearing at his lungs. Every ounce of pain, fear, and fury inside him fused into a single unbreakable vow. He would save Hunter. He would expose North Point, and he would not die on land that wasn't finished telling its story. He reached a fallen tree deep in the forest and ducked under it, laying Hunter gently on the ground. The dog trembled, but looked up at him with unwavering trust. "That's it, buddy. Stay awake." Logan tore the sleeve of his sweatshirt and pressed it against the wound. "We're gonna make it." A distant shout echoed through the trees. Logan froze, listened. Mercenaries were spreading out, sweeping through the woods. They had thermal optics, radio support, training, but he had something they didn't. A bond forged in war. Hunter lifted his head, ears twitching despite the pain. He pressed his muzzle to Logan's wrist, steady, loyal, refusing to let him fall apart. Logan exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the night settle around them. "They want a fight," he whispered. "They'll get one." He gathered Hunter in his arms again and moved toward the old service road that led down to Ridgebend. Behind him, the dark forest swallowed the mercenaries' voices. Ahead of him, a faint hope glimmered through the trees. Nora Collins's home. The one place where help could come before the night swallowed them whole. He tightened his grip on Hunter, breath shaking. "Just hold on, buddy," he whispered into the dog's fur. "I'm not losing you. Not now. Not ever." And the wounded dog, still fighting to stay conscious, pressed one weak paw against Logan's chest as if answering, "I'm right here. I'm not letting go." Hunter's paw slipped from Logan's chest as the dog finally weakened, eyelids drooping. Logan shifted his grip and pushed forward through the dark forest, branches scraping his arms, cold air burning his lungs. Every breath tasted like fear and pine and the metallic scent of Hunter's blood. But Nora Collins's porch light appeared through the trees, warm, golden, a fragile beacon in the night. Logan stumbled up the steps and banged hard on the door with his elbow. "Nora, it's Logan! Open up!" The door swung wide almost instantly. Nora, hair in loose gray braids, still wearing her nightrobe, took one look at Hunter and gasped. "Lord help us! Bring him in, hurry!" They laid Hunter on a padded bench inside Nora's sunroom, which doubled as a makeshift clinic. Shelves of bandages, antiseptic solution, and veterinary tools lined the walls. Nora had spent 20 years as an animal nurse. Tonight, she moved with the precision of someone who'd seen more emergencies than she could count. "Hold him steady," she said. Hunter whimpered as Nora cleaned the deep knife wound. Logan held him firmly, whispering soothing words. The sight of his dog's blood soaking through fresh gauze triggered something inside him. A familiar tremor. A memory he fought hard to suppress. A flash. Night patrol in Kandahar. Hunter dragging him out of a collapsed hallway. Men shouting. Gunfire tearing through the dark. Logan blinked it away. Forcing himself back into the room, Hunter needed him now. After what felt like hours, Nora stepped back with a weary sigh. He's lost blood, but he's strong. I stitched the muscle. Keep him still. He needs rest more than anything. Logan exhaled shakily. Thank you. Nora touched his arm. You're not safe up there tonight, Logan. They'll be back. Men like that don't spook easy. Logan didn't argue. His shirt was torn, his face streaked with dirt, and his eyes carried the dark, hollow weight of someone who'd seen death breathe too close. He sat beside Hunter, stroking the dog's fur gently as the injury continued oozing beneath clean bandages. Nora brought water and a blanket, but Logan barely touched them. Stay awake, buddy, he whispered. You hear me? You stay with me. Minutes blurred into hours. Just past dawn, headlights swept toward Nora's driveway. Logan tensed immediately, hand moving to his pistol until Nora checked the window and said, You're all right. I called someone. The old pickup truck stopped, and a woman stepped out. Tall, athletic, hair in a loose braid, eyes sharp with concern. Rachel Hayes. Logan's last true friend. Investigative journalist. Someone who dug for truth even when the ground fought back. She hurried in, her voice urgent. Nora said you were in trouble. Logan, what happened to you? Before he could answer, another vehicle pulled up behind hers, a dusty blue sedan, with a man stepping out in a blazer too thin for the cold. Ethan Cole. Land rights attorney. Quiet, precise, and sharper than he looked. He extended a hand. Mr. Mercer, I've been briefed. Nora told Rachel, and Rachel told me you're in the middle of something involving mineral rights and a sealed Cold War structure. That correct? Logan didn't shake his hand. Correct. Rachel's gaze fell on Hunter. Her breath hitched. Oh no. Logan. He'll make it, Logan said, though the tremor in his voice made the promise feel fragile. Rachel knelt beside the dog. Poor boy. What did they do to you? Logan handed her the binder he'd taken from the vault. It's all in here. Project Iron Vault. Government-level rare earth storage. Denton found it. North Point threatened him. He vanished. Rachel flipped through the pages, her face tightening with every line she read. This is huge. Logan, this could expose half the illegal drilling operations in the state. Ethan adjusted his glasses. And if the vault is on your land, under your deed, then legally this is your property, and they know it. Logan glanced toward the window. The forest looked deceptively calm in the morning sun, but he could still feel them out there. Mercenaries regrouping, planning the next move. Rachel stood, determination in her eyes. We need to get proof, photographs, video, something concrete. Logan nodded slowly. I have that too. He turned on his phone and showed them the footage he'd captured in the vault. Crates, documents, the map, the restricted marked walls. Rachel's eyes widened. This is enough to start an investigation. Ethan? More than enough, Ethan said. If what's down there is real, North Point is in serious legal trouble. But they won't go quietly. Rachel looked back at Hunter, who lifted his head just barely, gaze still protective despite exhaustion. He saved you again, didn't he? Logan's voice dropped low. He always does. Silence settled over the room, a heavy, emotional stillness broken only by Hunter's shallow breaths. Rachel pulled out her camera, her professional instincts kicking in. Logan, she said, if North Point is escalating, we have to move fast. Once these files go public, they can't hide this anymore. And they'll come for me harder, Logan said. Ethan nodded. Then you need allies, legal ones, and ones who don't scare easy. Nora placed a gentle hand over Logan's. You're not alone, son. You've got people now. Hunter shifted slightly, a faint growl humming in his chest, not out of aggression, but vigilance. Even wounded, he watched the door like he was ready to stand guard again. Rachel's voice softened. "We won't let them take this land from you, and we won't let them hurt Hunter again." Logan nodded, swallowing the heaviness in his throat. For the first time since arriving at the $1 farm, there was a crack of hope, thin, fragile, but alive. But hope was only the beginning, because North Point wasn't retreating. They were regrouping, and when they struck again, they would strike hard. Hunter lifted his head and growled at the door, not out of fear, but prophecy. The fight wasn't over. It was coming. By late afternoon, clouds drifted low over Ridgebend, casting the mountains in a heavy gray veil. Logan stood outside Nora's house, watching the sky darken as if preparing for bad news. Hunter lay on a soft blanket near the door, stitched and bandaged, fighting sleep with every ounce of stubborn loyalty he had left. Rachel and Ethan sat at the kitchen table behind him, reviewing the vault documents, cameras ready. Tension wound through the air like a tightened rope. Logan exhaled slowly. "I need to go back to the farm." Rachel set down her pen. "Alone? Logan, that's suicide." "They hit us last night. They'll hit us harder today," he said. "I need the original documents from the vault, the ones Denton hid. North Point is after something specific, something I didn't see." Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "He's right. If they want those files, they'll go after the property. And legally, possession matters." Rachel stood. "Fine. But we're not letting you walk into an ambush by yourself." Logan shook his head. "This isn't your fight." Rachel stepped closer. "Logan, you're wrong. This is exactly my fight. We're journalists. We expose corruption. We don't hide from it." Ethan added, "And I'm here to make sure no one steals your land." Nora stepped in, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Take the back path. Stay out of sight. I'll keep Hunter here. He needs rest." Hunter's ears twitched. He tried to stand, but his legs buckled. Logan knelt and stroked his fur. "You stay with Nora. You've done enough, buddy." Hunter pressed his muzzle into Logan's hand, eyes full of frustration and loyalty. Logan swallowed hard and stood. The three of them, Logan, Rachel, Ethan, moved quietly through the trees, using the forest as cover. When they reached the ridge overlooking the property, Logan froze. The farm was swarming with men. Black-clad figures moved across the yard with tactical precision. Mercenaries sweeping the perimeter, others setting up positions by the barn and farmhouse. An SUV blocked the driveway. Another vehicle was parked near the barn doors. They were organized, coordinated, ready. Rachel whispered, "Logan, this is a full assault team." Ethan's voice trembled. "Are we sure they're not law enforcement?" Logan answered with a quiet, steady certainty. "Law enforcement doesn't cut power lines, and they don't hunt people in the dark." Through binoculars, Logan spotted Carter Voss standing near the porch, speaking into a radio. Voss gestured toward the barn, irritated, impatient. He was looking for the hatch, for the vault, for proof. Rachel tightened her grip on her camera. "We record everything. If they break the law on your land, it'll expose them." Logan scanned the perimeter, analyzing every angle. "They're expecting a frontal fight." Rachel frowned. "So what's the plan?" A spark of something fierce flickered in Logan's eyes, the soldier within stepping forward again. "We give them what they're not prepared for." He pointed toward the old irrigation ditch near the west fence. "We move through that low ground, get behind the barns, set traps as we go." "Traps?" Ethan asked. Rachel smiled faintly. You forget he's a SEAL? The three of them moved carefully. Logan rigged motion-triggered cans to alert them if anyone flanked their route. He used old barbed wire to slow any advancing intruders. Rachel helped set the flares. Ethan held the flashlight and tools with trembling but determined hands. As night fell, the farm became a battlefield. The first mercenary triggered a wire near the south fence. A flare ignited, bright red, lighting the night like a sudden sunrise. The mercenary spun around, shouting orders. Logan whispered, "Now." He threw a small smoke canister, one he'd built from scrap metal and leftover fertilizer Nora had stored in her shed. Thick plumes billowed across the field. The mercenaries broke formation. Chaos. Confusion. Rachel filmed everything, her camera capturing silhouettes stumbling and choking on smoke. "Logan," she whispered. "Movement behind the barn." Logan turned just in time. A mercenary approached silently from the side with a rifle raised. Before Logan could react, a broken growl echoed across the yard. Hunter, the dog, weak, stitched, barely able to stand earlier, limped from the tree line, eyes ablaze with protective fury. He barked sharply, drawing the mercenaries' attention just long enough. Logan charged. The two men collided hard, the rifle clattering to the ground. Logan landed a heavy blow to the attacker's ribs, then another to his jaw. The man collapsed, unconscious. Rachel gasped. "Hunter shouldn't be out here." But Hunter didn't rest. He limped toward Logan and nudged his leg, urging him forward. "Good boy," Logan whispered. "Stay back, but keep watch." A burst of gunfire shattered the night. Aimed at the barn, not them. Sparks flew as bullets struck the metal siding. The mercenaries were trying to force the hatch open. Logan sprinted toward the barn, Ethan following close behind. He ducked behind a stack of old crates and peeked around the corner. Two mercenaries tried prying the boards loose. Voss shouted instructions from the farmhouse porch. "Get that door open! The proof is in there!" Logan's eyes narrowed. Proof they knew what Denton had found. Now they wanted it buried forever. Logan grabbed a rock and threw it hard toward the east fence. It clattered loudly. The mercenaries turned. Logan took the opening. He lunged, knocking one man to the ground. Ethan jumped back, startled but unharmed. The second mercenary aimed a kick at Logan's ribs, but Logan blocked it and countered with a sharp elbow strike. The man staggered, fell backward, and dropped his crowbar. Rachel captured the struggle on camera, breath heavy, hands shaking but steady. "Logan!" she shouted. "They're regrouping!" Another wave of mercenaries rounded the farmhouse, rifles drawn. Logan grabbed Ethan by the collar and pulled him behind the barn. Rachel followed. Lights swept the yard. Voices rose. They were searching aggressively now. "They'll kill us if they find us," Ethan whispered. Logan steadied his breathing. "Then we don't let them." A distant siren echoed faintly through the hills. Voss froze. "What? Who called?" Rachel smirked. "That would be Nora." A lookout shouted, "Vehicles approaching from the main road." Voss's calm snapped. "Fall back! Get to the cars! Move!" The mercenaries retreated fast, their assault suddenly collapsing. The SUVs peeled down the driveway, headlights slicing through the chaos. The siren grew louder. Sheriff's vehicles. But Logan's relief evaporated when he saw the man stepping out of the first patrol car. Sheriff Ron Barlow, his face unreadable, his eyes cold. And as he walked toward the barn, hands in his pockets, boots crunching on gravel, Hunter growled with a depth Logan had only heard a handful of times. Rachel whispered, "Why is he alone? Where's the rest of his team?" Logan stared at the sheriff, dread creeping into his veins. "He's not here to help us," Logan said quietly. "He's here because someone paid him to." Sheriff Ron Barlow walked toward the barn with a slow, unhurried confidence, like a man who knew the ending of a story long before the page turned. His boots crunched on the gravel with measured rhythm. The flashing lights of his cruiser cast red and blue glimmers across the abandoned equipment scattered around the yard. Hunter's growl deepened. Even wounded, the dog pushed himself in front of Logan, teeth bared, hackles raised, protective, uncompromising. Rachel whispered, "Logan, what do we do?" "Stay behind me," Logan murmured. "No sudden moves." Barlow finally stopped a few feet away. He looked at the broken fence, the scattered footprints, the smoke residue still clinging to the air. Then at Logan. "Well," the sheriff said, voice calm as a winter pond, "looks like you had yourself a rough night." Logan didn't answer. Barlow shifted his weight. "Funny thing is, I didn't get any call from your location." His eyes slid to Rachel. "But I did get one from the county line. Anonymous. Said there was trouble at this farm." Rachel swallowed. "We didn't call you." "Oh, I know," Barlow replied. "But somebody wants me out here." Logan took a step closer. "Was it Voss?" Barlow smirked, just barely. "You sure ask a lot of questions for a man who just bought this place for $1. Rachel whispered urgently, "Logan, don't provoke him." But the sheriff's hand was already drifting near his holster. Logan lifted his palms slightly. "Sheriff, listen. Someone is trying to kill me. They want whatever's under that barn. They sent armed men to the property. Hunter was stabbed protecting me. I have proof." Barlow's expression didn't change. "You have paperwork?" "More than that," Logan said. "We found a Cold War vault. Rare earth minerals. Government property. North Point is trying to cover it up." Rachel stepped forward with the camera. "And I filmed everything, including their men attacking us tonight." Barlow didn't even look at the camera. Instead, he sighed and shook his head. "You really don't get it, do you?" Hunter growled louder, sensing something shift. Barlow's voice hardened. "This land was meant to stay buried. Denton couldn't keep quiet. And now you can't either." There it was. The truth. The betrayal. Logan's blood ran cold. "You helped them disappear, Denton." Barlow didn't deny it. "Denton didn't know when to stop. He got spooked, started calling reporters, started walking into my office saying he feared for his life." He chuckled darkly. "He wasn't wrong." Rachel's hand tightened on the camera. "You killed him." "Let's not get dramatic," Barlow said. "People go missing in these woods all the time." Logan clenched his jaw. "You're dirty. You always have been." Barlow's eyes sharpened. "And you, Mercer, are a problem. A big one. I'd hoped Voss's people would take care of you quietly, but you're tougher than you look." Hunter moved forward slightly. Logan placed a hand on the dog's back. Barlow stepped closer. "So now it falls to me." He drew his gun. Rachel gasped. Ethan froze. Logan tensed. But Hunter moved first. The dog lunged with the last reserves of strength in his body, a desperate, loyal charge. Logan reached out desperately. "Hunter, no!" The sheriff fired. A sharp crack split the night. Hunter's body hit the ground with a sickening thud, skidding across the dirt. "No!" Logan roared, dropping to his knees beside the dog. Blood soaked the bandages Nora had stitched only hours before. Hunter whimpered, barely conscious. Barlow aimed again. "Move, Mercer, or I'll put one in you next." Logan shielded Hunter with his body, trembling with rage. Rachel screamed, "Stop! Sheriff, stop!" Barlow didn't flinch. "Turn over the files, the footage, everything, or I finish what I started." Ethan stepped forward, shaking. "You can't do this. You're an officer of the law." Barlow's voice was cold. "I am the law in Ridgebend." He cocked the gun. Rachel lifted the camera, even while crying. "I'm filming this. You're on record." "Not for long," Barlow replied, taking aim at her. And then A distant siren wailed in the valley. Not from the sheriff's car. Another vehicle. Multiple. Barlow stiffened. What the? Logan's eyes widened. He recognized that sound. Federal. High-powered. Getting closer. Rachel wiped tears from her face. I sent the footage. Everything. It's already public. Barlow swung his gun at her again. You stupid little... Before he could finish, Logan surged upward with explosive force, ramming his shoulder into Barlow's arm. The shot fired wild into the air. Logan seized the sheriff's wrist, twisted, and wrenched the gun free. Barlow stumbled. You don't understand. No, Logan growled. I understand exactly. He struck the sheriff hard, sending him crashing onto the gravel. As Barlow lay stunned, sirens flooded the driveway. Several SUVs skidded to a stop. Agents in tactical jackets rushed out, weapons drawn. Federal agents! Hands where we can see them! Barlow froze. Rachel dropped to her knees beside Hunter. Stay with us, boy. Please stay with us. Logan fell beside her, hands bloody as he cradled Hunter's face. Buddy, look at me. Look at me. You did good. You protected us. You're not done yet. Hunter weakly lifted his paw and placed it against Logan's wrist, barely there, but enough to break something inside him. Logan whispered, voice breaking. You hold on. You hear me? You hold on. The farm swarmed with federal agents, floodlights lighting up the night like artificial dawn. But Logan saw none of it. He saw only Hunter. Bleeding, shaking, but alive, barely. And Logan's heart shattered with the realization. This battle wasn't about land anymore. It was about justice, about truth, and about saving the one soul that had saved him time and time again. Federal agents swarmed the property like a rising storm, their radios crackling through the mountain air. Flashlights swept across the barn, the farmhouse, the shattered ground where the mercenaries had fled. But Logan stayed kneeling beside Hunter, one hand gripping the dog's paw, the other pressed against the still bleeding wound. Stay with me, Logan whispered. I'm right here. Hunter's breathing was shallow, but his eyes stayed locked on Logan's face, as if refusing to close them until he knew his partner was safe. Rachel knelt on Hunter's other side, tears streaking her face. They said they have medics coming. He just needs a little more time. Logan shook his head, jaw clenched. No, he needs me. A tall agent in a tactical jacket approached. Mr. Mercer, I'm Special Agent Dwyer with the Bureau. We received the broadcast of your footage. Everything from the vault, the assault, Sheriff Barlow's actions. Behind him, two agents cuffed Barlow and placed him in the back of a black SUV. The sheriff didn't struggle, just stared at Logan with a hollow, defeated glare. Dwyer continued, We've been after North Point for months. We had no idea the missing piece was sitting under your barn. Logan barely heard him. His attention stayed on Hunter. He needs a vet. Now. We already called one from the next county, Dwyer assured him. But until she gets here, hold pressure on that wound. Rachel leaned closer. Logan, look at me. He made it through worse. Please believe that. But Logan's hands trembled despite his iron discipline. Memories slashed through him. Night raids, collapsed buildings, blood on his uniform. Hunter dragging him to safety when he couldn't stand. Hunter barking him awake from the nightmares that clawed at him every night. Hunter choosing him, every time. He bent closer, forehead touching the dog's. You can't leave me, he whispered. Not tonight. Not ever. Hunter blinked, faint but intentional. His paw twitched against Logan's wrist. A soft siren grew louder, another vehicle approaching fast. Relief hit Logan like a breaking wave. The vet, Rachel breathed. The car skidded to a stop. A woman jumped out carrying bags of equipment. "Where's the patient?" she called. Nora, who had arrived minutes earlier, pointed with urgency. "Right here." The vet, Dr. Marlene Brooks, knelt beside Hunter without hesitation. She placed a gentle hand on Logan's shoulder. "I need you to step back just a little. Not far. Just enough to let me work." Logan forced himself to move, though the distance felt like losing a piece of himself. Rachel grabbed his arm, steadying him as Dr. Brooks examined the wound. "He's lost a lot of blood," the vet murmured, "but his heartbeat is strong. This dog's a fighter." "He's more than that," Logan said softly. "He's family." For several minutes, long, suffocating minutes, Dr. Brooks worked with a quiet urgency. Logan watched every movement, gripping Rachel's hand, even though he didn't realize he was doing it. Finally, the vet wrapped clean bandages around Hunter's torso and exhaled. "He's stable for transport. Bring him to my clinic. I can perform the full repair there." Logan nodded, a breath of fragile hope filling his lungs. As agents loaded Hunter carefully into the vet's vehicle, Agent Dwyer turned to Logan. "While my team processes the scene," he said, "I need you to walk me through everything you found underground." Logan straightened. "I'll show you." Together, with Rachel filming everything, they approached the barn. Agents pried open the warped hatch, and cold air hissed upward from the dark. The tunnel waited below, a silent relic of the past. Logan descended first, flashlight cutting through the shadows. The stale metallic smell greeted them, along with the hum of aging machinery still churning faintly in the depths. When they reached the vault, Dwyer froze. Good Lord! Crates lined the chamber, each marked with federal insignia. Documents lay scattered where the intruder had rifled through them. Maps, seals, reactor materials, everything Denton had tried to expose. Rachel filmed every detail, her voice steady now, fueled by righteous fury. Logan pointed to the cracked binder. "This is what Denton found." He tried to report it. Sheriff Barlow silenced him. Agent Dwyer nodded grimly. "And you picked up where he left off." Logan glanced at Rachel. "We did." As the Bureau photographed every inch of the vault, Logan's gaze drifted to a dusty corner. A small metal tag lay half-buried under a fallen folder. He picked it up. Harold Denton Foreman. Project Iron Vault, Rachel's voice softened. He tried to warn the world. Logan held the tag tight. And he paid for it. Agent Dwyer approached. "Mr. Mercer, the evidence you and Ms. Hayes provided will allow us to bring North Point's entire executive board up on federal charges. Without you, this never would have come to light." Logan didn't answer. He stared down the dark corridor, mind still on Hunter, on the blood on his hands. Rachel placed a hand on his arm. "He's going to make it, Logan. Hunter's tough. Tougher than both of us." Logan let out a shaky breath. "I hope so." The team began ascending back toward daylight. At the top of the ladder, Logan paused and looked over the ruined farm. Barn doors shattered, gravel torn up, floodlights casting long blue-white shadows across the ground. It was a battlefield, but it was also the place where the truth had finally risen. As Rachel and Ethan waited near the agent vehicles, Agent Dwyer gestured toward the horizon, where red and blue lights flickered through the trees. "North Point won't recover from this," Dwyer said. "Their CEO is being arrested as we speak. The media is already playing your footage." Rachel smiled fiercely. "Good." But Logan didn't smile. He stared down the empty driveway, the one Hunter used to run along every morning at dawn. His voice broke softly. "Take me to him." As they drove toward the clinic, the first rays of morning light crept over the mountains, gentle, hopeful, cutting through the darkness that had smothered the farm for months, maybe years. Logan pressed a hand against the window. "Just hold on, buddy," he whispered into the glass. "I'm coming." And for the first time all night, he allowed himself to believe justice was coming too. The drive to Dr. Brooks's clinic felt longer than any mission Logan had ever endured. Every turn along the mountain road rattled his nerves. Every shadow looked like another threat. And every second that passed without Hunter by his side felt like the tightening of an invisible rope around his chest. When the clinic finally appeared, an old renovated cabin with warm yellow lights glowing from its windows, Logan didn't wait for the car to stop fully. He jumped out and rushed inside. Dr. Brooks met him in the hallway, still wearing her surgical gloves, her scrubs stained with fresh blood. Logan's voice cracked. "Is he?" The vet held up a hand. "He's alive." Logan sagged against the wall, breath stumbling out of him in relief. "But he's not out of danger yet," she added gently. "The knife cut deeper than we thought. He lost a lot of blood. I repaired the internal tear and stopped the bleeding, but recovery will take time. He'll need rest. No sudden movement. No stress." Logan nodded quickly. "I'll do whatever it takes." "You already did," she said softly. "You kept pressure on the wound. You kept him breathing until help arrived. Without that, we'd be having a very different conversation." She gestured for him to follow. Hunter lay on a thick orthopedic pad, IV lines connected to his foreleg, chest rising and falling slowly but steadily. His fur was shaved around the stitched incision, the wound now clean and neatly bandaged. His ears twitched when Logan approached. "Hey, buddy," Logan whispered, sinking to his knees. Hunter turned his head weakly, eyes cloudy with exhaustion, but full of recognition. Logan brushed his fingers lightly along the dog's muzzle. "You scared me," he murmured. "But you held on. You always do." Rachel stepped quietly beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Ethan stood in the doorway, his usually neat posture softened by the long night's toll. Rachel smiled gently. "When he wakes up fully, you two are going to have a lot to talk about." Logan chuckled weakly, wiping his eyes. "Yeah, I owe him more than a steak." But underneath the relief, a new weight formed, one of responsibility. If Hunter was safe, then what came next had to matter, had to honor the sacrifices made on this land. A nurse approached. "He'll sleep for a few hours at least. You all should rest too." Logan refused to leave Hunter's side. He leaned back against the wall and finally allowed exhaustion to claim him. By morning, sunlight washed through the clinic windows, soft and hopeful. Hunter opened his eyes more fully, shifting slightly, whining as he noticed Logan dozing nearby. Logan jolted awake. "Hey, easy, buddy. Easy." Hunter lifted his paw and set it gently against Logan's boot. "He's ready to go home," Dr. Brooks said from behind him, smiling. "Not today. He needs a few more days of observation, but soon." Logan nodded gratefully. "Thank you for everything." "You thank him instead," she replied, pointing to Hunter. "That dog saved your life in more ways than one." 2 weeks passed. Agents from Washington completed their investigation. North Point executives were indicted on state and federal charges. Sheriff Barlow was transferred to a federal holding facility pending trial. The news spread across the country. Rachel's footage went viral. And when Logan returned to the farm with Hunter healed enough to walk again, the land felt different. Not haunted, not cursed, not broken, just waiting. He stood in front of the barn, the same barn that had hidden its secrets for more than 70 years. Now, the hatch had been sealed and secured by federal order, but the truth it carried had already risen into daylight. Rachel and Ethan visited often, helping him rebuild the property piece by piece. Nora made warm meals and told stories of Harold Denton and the days before North Point cast its shadow over Ridgebend. One quiet afternoon, Logan walked across the open field with Hunter trotting slowly beside him. The dog's stitches were healed, his gait strong again. His tail swished through the tall grass. "You ready to start something new?" Logan asked. Hunter barked once. Deep, sure, and Logan smiled. Months later, a carved wooden sign hung proudly at the entrance of the once-forgotten farm. Hunter Ridge K9 Sanctuary, a refuge for injured working dogs and veterans healing from war. The farmhouse had been restored, the barn roof repaired. Fenced fields stretched wide for the dogs to run. Trails wound into the mountains for therapy walks. Veterans from across the state visited weekly, some with scars visible, some without. Hunter led them all. One afternoon, while clearing the old cellar beneath the farmhouse, Logan found a dusty lockbox tucked deep behind broken boards. He carried it to the porch, prying it open carefully. Inside lay a single letter, yellowed with age. "To the next man who lives here," it read in Harold Denton's careful handwriting. "If you're reading this, then the truth finally found its voice. I pray you use it to protect this land and the souls who depend on it." Logan closed his eyes for a moment, letting the weight of the message settle into him. He folded the letter gently and placed it back inside the box. As he stepped outside, Hunter ran ahead, barking joyfully as the afternoon sun painted the ridge in gold. Logan breathed deep, feeling for the first time in years, peace instead of panic, hope instead of dread. "This is home now," he said softly. Hunter turned back, panting happily, tail wagging, and Logan followed him into the open field, knowing the past had finally released its hold, and the future, bright and quiet and healing, had begun. If you believe justice still matters in this country, drop a 1 in the comments. And if you'd stand your ground the way Logan did, type "yes" so I know you're with us. Make sure you subscribe to stick around for the next fight for truth, land, and the people who refuse to be pushed off their own ridge.